Before her name appeared in headlines, before surveillance images froze her final moments in time, Kelsey Smith was simply a teenager standing on the edge of adulthood. She had just turned 18 years old. High school was behind her, and the future was wide open. College plans were forming. Independence was close enough to touch. Like many young people her age, Kelsey was in that in-between space. No longer a child, not quite an adult, but eager to move forward. Friends described her as kind, social, and easy to talk to. She had a way of making people feel comfortable, the kind of person who remembered small details, who showed up when it mattered. To her family, she was dependable, thoughtful, someone they trusted. She wasn't reckless. She wasn't sheltered either. She was learning how to navigate the world on her own, one small step at a time. Overland Park, Kansas, was the kind of place where parents felt safe letting their kids run errands alone. Low crime, familiar faces, well-lit parking lots, a city built on routine and predictability. This was the environment Kelsey grew up in, one where danger felt distant, abstract, something that happened somewhere else. That sense of safety is part of what makes this story so unsettling. Because nothing about Kelsey's choices that day stood out as unusual. She told her family where she was going. She stayed on the phone. She went to a public place during the evening, surrounded by people. Everything she did made sense. She was dating a boy she cared deeply about. 6 months together might not sound like much, but at 18 it felt significant, meaningful, worth celebrating. So she decided to stop by Target, pick up something small, something personal, a simple plan, one she'd likely made dozens of times before. What no one could have known, not Kelsey, not her family, not anyone watching her that evening, was that this ordinary decision had placed her directly in the path of someone who had already made a choice of his own. And unlike Kelsey, his intentions were anything but innocent. As Kelsey moved through the aisles that night, another presence moved with her, unnoticed, unremarkable, blending seamlessly into the background. A stranger, a shadow in plain sight. And while Kelsey was thinking about a gift, someone else was watching her and waiting. Saturday, June 2nd, 2007. Early evening. Overland Park is winding down from the day. Families finishing dinner, shoppers making last-minute stops before heading home. For Kelsey Smith, the night is still simple. She tells her family she's heading to Target, just a quick trip. She plans to be back soon. At approximately 7:07 p.m., Kelsey walks through the sliding doors of the Target store on 95th Street. Surveillance cameras capture her entering alone. She's wearing casual clothes. Her posture is relaxed. Nothing about her body language suggests fear or even hesitation. This is familiar territory. Inside the store, Kelsey takes her time. She browses, she pauses, she looks at different options. Eventually, she speaks with a store employee, asking for help finding the right item. The interaction is brief, polite, ordinary. But while Kelsey is moving through the aisles, someone else is moving too. A man enters the frame. He's dressed casually, a light-colored shirt, dark pants. He doesn't rush, he doesn't stare. He keeps his distance just enough to avoid attention. At first glance, he looks like any other customer, but the cameras tell a different story. Where Kelsey goes, he follows. When she stops, he slows. When she changes direction, he adjusts his path. Always nearby, always watching. Investigators would later describe it as deliberate, not impulsive, not random wandering. This wasn't coincidence. After several minutes, Kelsey makes her selection and heads toward the checkout. She pays, collects her bag. Everything is routine. There's no indication that she notices the man behind her. No sign that she senses danger. As she leaves the store, Kelsey pulls out her phone and dials her mother. It's a habit, one her family encouraged. Stay connected. Stay safe. They talk casually as Kelsey walks toward her car. The conversation is light, normal. Nothing sounds wrong, until, suddenly, the line goes dead. At first, it doesn't seem alarming. Calls drop, phones disconnect, it happens. But that moment, that sudden silence, marks the point where everything changes. Security footage shows Kelsey reaching her vehicle. Seconds later, the man appears again, this time no longer blending in. What happens next unfolds quickly. Kelsey is forced into her own car. There is no prolonged struggle caught on camera. No screaming heard by bystanders. Just a brief, violent interruption in an otherwise ordinary evening. Then the car pulls out of the parking space and disappears. No one in the parking lot realizes what they've just witnessed. No alarms are raised. No one calls for help. Life continues, unaware that an abduction has just taken place in plain sight. When Kelsey doesn't return home, concern begins to grow. Calls go unanswered, messages are left, minutes turn into an hour. Then panic sets in. Her family reports her missing, and suddenly what started as a quick shopping trip becomes a race against time. By the time Kelsey Smith's family realizes something is wrong, the sun is already sinking below the horizon. She was supposed to be gone only a short while. A quick trip, an easy errand. But her phone keeps ringing unanswered. Text messages go unread, and with each passing minute, the unease grows heavier. This isn't like her. Kelsey's parents retrace her steps. They check nearby streets. They call friends. They drive the route she would have taken home. There is no sign of her, and soon, concern turns into fear. Later that evening, Kelsey Smith is officially reported missing. Law enforcement begins gathering the basic details: her description, her clothing, her last known location. Target: the parking lot. Early evening. At that point, there is still hope that she'll be found quickly. That maybe she had car trouble, maybe her phone died, maybe she simply lost track of time. But investigators know something doesn't feel right. Officers head to the Target store almost immediately. They begin reviewing security footage, hour after hour of mundane, uneventful video. Until they see her. Kelsey entering the store, Kelsey walking the aisles, Kelsey leaving. And then, the moment that changes everything. The footage reveals a man following her. Not briefly. Not accidentally. But deliberately. Frame by frame, investigators watch as he tracks her movements through the store. The realization is chilling. This wasn't a disappearance, it was an abduction. The images are grainy, but clear enough to identify a suspect's clothing, build, and general appearance. Within hours, the footage is released to the public, and the response is immediate. The community rallies around the Smith family, volunteers flood in, search parties organize, flyers go up across Overland Park and neighboring cities. Strangers give up their weekends. Businesses open their doors. People who never met Kelsey show up because an 18-year-old girl is missing and time matters. They call themselves Kelsey's Army. Through the night and into the next day, teams comb parks, trails, and vacant land. Law enforcement expands the search radius. Every tip is logged. Every lead is chased. Then, another development. Kelsey's car is discovered in a parking lot not far from where she was last seen. It's parked neatly, locked, as if nothing is wrong. Inside, investigators find her personal belongings, her purse, her wallet, the gift she purchased. Everything she would have needed, except herself. The discovery brings mixed emotions. Relief that the car is found, dread over what it might mean. If Kelsey didn't leave with her car, then someone else did. Forensic teams process the vehicle carefully. Fingerprints are lifted, fibers collected, every surface examined for answers. And one small detail stands out. Fingerprints on the seatbelt buckle that do not belong to Kelsey and do not match anyone in her immediate circle. It's a quiet but critical clue. As the hours stretch into days, hope begins to thin. But it doesn't disappear. Investigators refuse to treat the case as a recovery. To them, Kelsey is still missing, still alive. Behind the scenes, another tool becomes the focus of the search: her cell phone. If they can locate it, even briefly, it could lead them to her. But in 2007, access to real-time cell phone location data is slow, complicated, tangled in legal red tape. Time continues to slip away. And somewhere beyond the search zones, beyond the flyers and flashlights, the truth of what happened to Kelsey Smith is still waiting to be uncovered. As the search for Kelsey Smith intensifies, investigators narrow their focus to one remaining lifeline: her cell phone. In cases like this, every minute matters. Every delay carries consequences. But in 2007, locating a cell phone in real time isn't simple. Accessing that data requires cooperation from service providers, legal approval, and time. The one thing Kelsey may not have. Law enforcement presses forward anyway. Local police coordinate with federal agencies. The FBI joins the effort. Requests are made, paperwork is pushed through. No one is willing to stop trying. Behind closed doors, officers prepare themselves for two possible outcomes: rescue or recovery. When the data finally comes through, it doesn't give an exact address. Instead, it offers something broader, a general area where Kelsey's phone last connected to nearby cell towers. The signal points south, across state lines, into Jackson County, Missouri, specifically to a heavily wooded area near Longview Lake. For search teams, the terrain is challenging: thick brush, uneven ground, limited visibility. But there is no hesitation. They move in immediately. Within minutes, something is found. Not far from where the signal last registered, officers discover Kelsey's cell phone. It's lying on the ground. Finding the phone confirms what investigators feared: Kelsey was here. And if she was here, then this is where the search must continue. The search expands outward from that point. Teams move carefully, methodically, scanning the forest floor. Every step carries weight. Every discovery holds the potential to end the search, one way or another. Then, less than an hour later, they find her. Kelsey Smith's body is located in the wooded area near the lake. She is 18 years old. The search, once driven by hope, comes to a devastating end. The scene is secured. Investigators work quietly, deliberately. There are no raised voices, no chaos. Just the heavy understanding that a young life has been taken. An autopsy later confirms what no family should ever have to hear. Kelsey was sexually assaulted, and she was strangled. The news ripples outward, from the woods, to the command center, to the Smith family, and finally to a community that had been holding its breath. Overland Park mourns. But even in grief, the investigation doesn't stop. Because now the question is no longer where is Kelsey Smith? It's who did this, and how quickly can they be found? Investigators return to the evidence with renewed urgency. The surveillance footage, the fingerprints, the timeline. Someone committed this crime and left traces behind. They just have to connect them. With Kelsey Smith's body recovered, the investigation enters a new phase. Now it's no longer a search for a missing teenager. It's a homicide investigation, and every detail matters. At the center of it all is one haunting piece of evidence: the surveillance footage from Target. Investigators replay the video again and again. They track the man's movements from the moment he enters the store to the moment Kelsey leaves. They notice how he mirrors her pace, how he pauses when she pauses, how he never fully breaks away. This wasn't random browsing. This was intent. The footage is released publicly, and within hours, tips begin to pour in. People recognize the clothing, the posture, the walk. Some think they've seen him before. Others feel certain they know who he is. Among those watching the news are residents from a nearby apartment complex, just a few miles from the Target. And one of them sees something that makes their stomach drop. The man in the video looks familiar. Too familiar. A neighbor contacts police, saying the man resembles someone who lives in the building, a 26-year-old man named Edwin Roy Hall. He keeps to himself. He doesn't stand out. He blends in, just like he did in the store. Detectives begin digging into Hall's background. They learn where he lives, where he works, and most importantly, where he was on the night Kelsey Smith disappeared. They also begin comparing physical details. The clothing matches, the build matches, the timing aligns, but suspicion isn't enough. They need proof. That proof comes from Kelsey's car. Earlier, forensic teams recovered fingerprints from the seatbelt buckle, prints that didn't belong to Kelsey, her family, or anyone close to her. Now those prints are compared against Edwin Hall. The result is conclusive. They match. It's the break investigators were waiting for. With the surveillance footage, witness identification, and forensic evidence aligning, police move quickly. On June 6, 2007, just 4 days after Kelsey disappeared, Edwin Roy Hall is arrested. During questioning, Hall initially denies involvement. But as investigators present the evidence, the video, the fingerprints, the timeline, his story begins to unravel. Eventually, he admits to what he did. He followed Kelsey inside the store, waited for her to leave, forced her into her own car at gunpoint. He tells investigators he drove her across state lines to the wooded area near Longview Lake. And there, he took her life. For the Smith family, the arrest brings a complicated wave of emotions. Relief that the person responsible is in custody, and devastation that nothing can undo what's already happened. The man who blended into the background, the man who followed unnoticed, now has a name, a face, and a future behind bars. The case isn't over yet, because justice doesn't end with an arrest. By the time Edwin Roy Hall is brought before the court, the facts of the case are no longer in question. The evidence is overwhelming, the timeline is clear, the surveillance footage leaves little room for doubt. But the courtroom is not just a place for facts. It's a place where loss is finally spoken out loud. Nearly a year passes between Kelsey Smith's death and the day her family faces the man responsible. For them, time hasn't softened anything. It has only stretched the pain across months filled with unanswered questions and unimaginable grief. Now, all of it converges here. In July 2008, Edwin Hall enters a guilty plea to all charges: aggravated kidnapping, rape, sodomy, and capital murder. There is no trial. No dramatic cross-examinations, no jury deliberation, just a quiet acknowledgement of guilt. For the Smith family, the plea is both a relief and a heartbreak. They are spared the agony of reliving every detail in open court, but they are also denied the answers a trial might have brought. Why Kelsey? Why that night? Why at all? Those questions remain unanswered. When it comes time for sentencing, the courtroom listens as impact statements are read. Kelsey's parents speak of a daughter who will never finish college, never marry, never have children. They speak of holidays that now feel empty, of birthdays marked by absence, of a future stolen in an instant. Their words are not angry, they are honest and devastating. Edwin Hall offers a brief apology. Few words, no explanation, no insight into his motives. It changes nothing. The judge sentences Hall to life in prison without the possibility of parole. There will be no chance of release, no chance to walk free again. It is the strongest sentence the court can impose. As the gavel falls, justice is served in the legal sense. But for the Smith family, justice does not bring closure. It does not restore what was taken. It does not answer the questions that will follow them for the rest of their lives. What it does bring is finality. The man who followed Kelsey Smith through a store aisle will spend the rest of his life behind bars. But Kelsey will forever remain 18. When the courtroom empties and the headlines fade, what remains is not the crime, but the absence it left behind. For Kelsey Smith's family, life continues in a way that no longer resembles what it once was. Every milestone now carries an echo. Every ordinary moment is quietly measured against the life that should have been. Kelsey is frozen in time, forever 18. She is remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived. As a daughter who called her mom while running errands. As a teenager excited about love and the future. As someone who believed she was safe in the world she knew. That belief was shared by an entire community. Kelsey's abduction forced people to confront an unsettling truth, that danger doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it waits quietly, blending into crowds, moving through familiar places unnoticed. Her story shattered the illusion that public spaces guarantee safety. But it also sparked change. In the wake of her death, her parents fought for something no family should ever have to ask for: faster access to life-saving information. Their advocacy led to the passage of the Kelsey Smith Act, a law requiring cell phone providers to share location data with law enforcement during emergencies when a life is believed to be in danger. It came too late for Kelsey, but it has already helped others. Through the Kelsey Smith Foundation, her family continues to speak to schools, parents, and young people. Not from a place of fear, but from experience. They talk about awareness, about trust, about staying connected. They carry Kelsey's name forward, not as a symbol of tragedy, but of protection. And still, questions remain. What made Edwin Hall choose that night, that store, that moment? Could anyone have noticed something sooner? Would faster access to phone data have changed the outcome? There are no satisfying answers. True crime often promises resolution, a suspect caught, a sentence handed down. But real life rarely offers clean endings. What it leaves behind is grief and memory. Kelsey Smith's story is not a warning about being careless. It's a reminder of how quickly the ordinary can turn into the unimaginable, and how even in loss, one life can still shape the world in meaningful ways. She went to the store to buy a gift. She never came home, but she is not forgotten. Thank you for watching Murder Ledger. We explore real cases, unanswered questions, and the details that refuse to fade. If these stories matter to you, consider subscribing and sharing your thoughts in the comments.